Is there a pledge?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. Roll call.
Jenny David.
Here.
Roger Mayhew. Charles Wiltie.
Here.
Brenda Simmons.
Here.
Craig Scott.
Here.
Item 2, approval of the agenda. Any additions or corrections? We do have an addition underneath the new business. We're gonna put. Commissioner Simmons, are you ready?
No, I'm backwards right now. I'm ready. I am ready.
Under new business, we're gonna put letter B. We're gonna put resolution to censor. And we will elaborate on that when we get there.
Letter who?
New business, B,
B.
as in boy. A. Any other additions or corrections?
Was the BL 2049-49, is that under apportionment?
Yeah, that's.
Okay, all right. I'm good. I'll make a motion to accept the agenda with addition. Support.
Motion from Commissioner Scott, support from Commissioner Wiltie. Commissioner Simmons, did you want to add what you were talking about, the committee of the whole? The letter to the editor?
Can I just do it in commissioner comments?
Oh, yep, absolutely. Okay,
Commissioner comments.
I apologize. We have a motion with support. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 3, declaration of conflicts of interest. Any commissioners?
I have none.
That'd be good.
Item 4, review of minutes. We have October 24th, 2024 regular meeting minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes.
We have a motion from Commissioner Scott,
Support.
support from Commissioner Wiltie. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 4B, October 24th, closed session meeting.
Make a motion.
Support.
Motion from Commissioner Wiltie, support from Commissioner Scott. Those were in front of us. The clerk gave us. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 4C, November 7th, 2024, Committee of the Whole meeting minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion from Commissioner Scott. Is there support?
Yeah.
Support from Commissioner Mayhew. Any further discussion?
Yes, I had discussion.
Go ahead.
Let me pull it up here. It's 11:07. I would like something added into, as we were in the middle of talking about the job description of jail administrator. I abruptly left the meeting and left the room. He was asked to come up and address us on this topic. And in the middle of talking about it, he just abruptly left. As it appeared to me as a temper. So I would like something in there that says that he left the meeting at, I mean, you can look back at the tape and see what time it was or something like that. And that left the room completely.
You saying you want that in the minutes?
In the paragraph where we were talking about the jail administration positions. Someplace in there, I'll leave it to the clerk to review the meeting and put it in there. That's fine with me, but I think that something there should be there.
Okay.
I agree with that.
And also, in the paragraph about the grievances been filed, the commissioners are in agreement with the following the process to move forward. I think something in there, the process to move forward.
Spell it out.
Because we're obligated to send this information to the Department of Treasury, State Department of Treasury and the Attorney General's office. We're obligated by law to do so. I think that should just be in there someplace
Okay.
for historical matters. We spoke about it in the meeting. I reviewed the YouTube
No, I think it's a
today.
good idea to have it there.
I would just like to see it in the minutes in case we have to go back and look in a later date.
Agreed. Any further discussion?
No.
All in favor, say aye.
I
Opposed? Motion carries 4D, November 7th, 2024, closed session meeting minutes.
motion to approve.
Motion from Scott, support from Commissioner Wiltie. Any further discussion? Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Public comment on agenda item manners only. In the room, any? Any public comment on the phone? 6, correspondence. We received correspondence from Livingston County, contacts between illegal immigrants and Livingston County Sheriff's Office and Livingston County related to the opposition to Senate bills, Northeast Michigan Community Service Agency meeting minutes and agenda, and Wellvance related to meeting minutes and agenda. Those have been received and filed. Do you foresee a question that Livingston was quite informative, interesting? I found that very interesting. Do you foresee more of that coming down?
I don't know, you may recall a meeting or two ago, we had a correspondence from Washtenaw County, pretty well chastising Livingston County for passing the resolution. So it's an interesting battle going on down there.
Right.
Chairman.
Yes,
I'd like to, even though it wasn't sent to, we found correspondence. I think that, one thing is Isabella County, we've gotten information that their law enforcement millage failed twice this year. It appears that they'll probably be laying off 19 deputies by the first of the year.
isn't it Isabella, you said?
Isabella. They're probably shrink down to just the sheriff and an undersheriff, and that will be the only persons on the sheriff's department. They built a $41 million
Yeah.
jail.
Aren't they in the
with
process?
Yeah, they're close to finishing,
Okay,
and they have no direct funding for that. That's
Mhm.
coming out of their general fund, so the prizes will only come down later. And then also, we got information from Alpena County, their law enforcement budget or millage failed. Looks like they're gonna have to cut $500,000 out of their road patrol budgets. We are all in the same ship or in the same sea, whatever you wanna call it. And I think that people need to hear this and know that this is happening around the state.
okay, those have been received and filed. Consent for agenda. We've been taking these independently. Are you guys? agree with
Big
that?
one.
Independent. I think that's state
Stop.
consistent.
7A, we have, resolution to authorize waste disposal contracts. This resolution is sponsored by Sheriff Brian Gilbert. Republic Services provides containers and waste pickup services at the sheriff's office and correctional facility. A significant reduction of persons at the correctional facility resulted in less waste and thereby reducing the need for waste pickup services. Approval of the resolution will authorize the board chairperson to sign agreement with the Republic Services for container and waste removal services at the sheriff's office and correctional facility at a total cost not to exceed $350.01 per month. $4,200.12 annually.
Make a motion. Or.
Motion from Commissioner Wiltie, support from Commissioner Mayhew. Any further discussion?
Okay.
Go ahead.
Once the sheriff's department is moved. I know there are any plans for that building, but I wouldn't, the garbage disposal is gone from that building when the time comes.
I'm not sure if that's one that we use in this building as well, so double check that. If that's the case, we'll get rid of it, but we may use that
Well, that's,
when this building is picked up every night.
okay,
Any further discussion?
I hope that, that the girls are still using the pickup truck to take the trash up the hill to that dumpster. Because if they are, they can surely take it across the street to the larger dumpster. Sure. You know, and even if we get incurred too much and we drop one dumpster, we can go back to weekly service on the other one. And still save money.
Any further discussion?
Nope.
Roll call vote.
Roger Mayhew,
Yeah.
Charles Wiltie,
Yes.
Brenda Simmons,
Yes.
Craig Scott.
Yes.
Jenny David.
Yes. Item 7B, resolution to amend the 2024 report of taxes to be,
You added that other one on.
that's 8B.
Oh, 8B, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
Under new business.
Okay,
7B, resolution to amend the 2024 report of taxes to be apportioned. This resolution is sponsored by the Equalization Director Randy Booth. On October 17th, 2024, the Board of Commissioners approved Resolution 24-92, the 2024 report of taxes to be apportioned, showing the millage levies apportioned to various taxing authorities in Ogemaw County for the year 2024. It has since been learned that the approved countywide 24-hour road patrol service millage passed by voters in February is subject to constitutionally required process known as the Headley rollback that adjusts property tax rates that limits total municipal tax revenue increases to the rate of inflation. Also, on November 5th, 2024, the Ogemaw County electorate voted in favor of a millage to support funding for the county animal control program. Approval of the resolution will amend the county's official statement of taxable valuations and mills apportioned to reflect these changes for the for the year 2024. Question, oh, go ahead. Would anybody like to entertain that motion?
I'll make the motion.
Motion from Commissioner Scott. Support from Commissioner Mayhew. Tim, would you like to talk about this, but would you like to touch base?
This is not unusual, particularly when you have a millage request on a ballot in November. It's not unusual that we have to update the apportionment report like this. It's fairly routine. You've got a copy of the actual form tied to the resolution that the board chair will be asked to sign after it's approved. The only other thing that is unusual was that rollback that road patrol millage is subject to, and I'm sure you're all curious as to what that means in dollars. Is $2,778.87 that we lose because of the rollback. When your budget's over $1 million, that's not a whole lot, but it's still a rollback, and here we go.
Questions?
No.
We have a motion with support. I guess we might as well do a roll call here.
Charles Wiltie,
Yes.
Brenda Simmons,
Yes.
Craig Scott.
Yes.
Jenny David.
Yes.
Roger Mayhew.
Yes.
Item 7C, resolution to amend the general appropriations for fiscal year 2025. This resolution is sponsored by Administrator / Controller Timothy Delahoney. On September 26, 2024, the Board of Commissioners approved Resolution 24-90 to adopt the fiscal year 2025 Ogemaw County budget. The general appropriations resolution authorized tax levies for the 2024 tax year, 2025 budget year as required by law. Amendments to the 2024 report of taxes to be apportioned subsequently requires amendments to the tax levies cited in Resolution 24-90. Approval of the resolution will amend general appropriations resolution to authorize a total county tax levy of 10.8542 mils for the 2024 tax year / 2025 budget year.
We'll make the motion.
Motion Commissioner Scott, support from Commissioner Wiltie. Questions? And I see Randy walked in. Tim, do you want to talk about this at all? Randy, do you have anything you want to add to when he's done?
This is a companion resolution to the one you just approved. It speaks specifically to the appropriations resolution that was passed. And this obviously sets the revenue rates in that budget itself. So this way we're covering both bases, even though it was the same thing, it was two separate actions. And so we're not going to correct this resolution to have these new accurate numbers plugged in.
Randy, do you want to add something?
I can just say the part of the change was a 0.2 mil for the animal shelter. So it was added to the overall levy. The other change was the sheriff's road millage was voted in February at 1 mil. And we put it on the roll at 1 mil, and I did not realize, but by statute, anything that is levied, voted on before April 30th is subject to the rollback for action. So it had to come on a roll at 0.9975. And so I had to amend that and sent the 4029 form to Mr. Delahoney so that could be corrected tonight. And I apologize for that, but we've never had a village election in February before. They've always been in August or November before, and I didn't realize that there's a specific date on those for the current year.
Did I understand? All right, so that's because of how they roll back. That's what we just passed beforehand. Okay, that's just.
Yeah.
Okay. Any further questions? Roll call vote.
Brenda Simmons.
Yes.
Craig Scott,
Yes.
Jenny David,
Yes.
Roger Mayhew,
Yes.
Charles Wiltie.
Yes.
Item 7D, resolution to approve acceptable use of artificial intelligence policy. This resolution is sponsored by Information Technology Director Tom Spencer. Ogemaw County recognizes the use of artificial intelligence sources to quickly gather information and provide solutions. Basic ground rules established through a formal policy to regulate the use of AI in the county workplace can protect the county's confidential information and the integrity of operations. Approval of the resolution will adopt an acceptable use of artificial intelligence policy for county employees.
I'll make the motion to pass the resolution.
Support.
A motion from Commissioner Scott, support from Commissioner Mayhew. Tom, do you have anything you want to add to that?
No, I'm all set. I appreciate the support and I like what is drawn up in there, especially about the confidential information.
Okay, I've seen that. No questions on that, guys? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 7E, resolution to approve Delta Dental contracts. This resolution is sponsored by Administrator/Controller Timothy Delahoney. Ogemaw County provides dental coverage through Delta Dental as a fringe benefit offered to most Ogemaw County employees. Delta Dental has submitted a renewal contract with changes effective January 1st, 2025. Approval of the resolution will authorize the board chairperson to sign the necessary agreements with Delta Dental.
Motion. The resolution to approve Delta Dental contracts.
A motion from Commissioner Wiltie,
Support.
support from Commissioner Scott. Tim, do you have anything to add to this?
I don't.
We talked about it. It's a good benefit to employees. And the cost wasn't much, correct?
Yeah, it's not, we've rolled it into what we budget for our health insurance across the board, so we've already budgeted for it. This is just the formality of signing it.
Any other questions? Roll call vote?
Jenny David.
Yes.
Roger Mayhew.
Yes.
Charles Wiltie.
Yes.
Brenda Simmons.
Yes.
Craig Scott.
Yes.
Item 7F, resolution to amend to approve jail administrator job description. This resolution is sponsored by Administrator/Controller Timothy Delahoney. Job descriptions can help identify particular skills or abilities that are necessary for a position or the environmental pressures that apply to the position. A formally adopted job description for the jail administrator position included in the fiscal year 2025 budget does not currently exist. Approval of the resolution will address this deficiency. Once approved, it is expected that Sheriff Brian Gilbert will Once approved, it is expected that Sheriff Brian Gilbert will appoint a qualified individual to the jail administrator position in fulfillment of his budget obligations.
I'll make a motion to approve the jail administrator job description.
A second.
Motion from Commissioner Wiltie, support from Commissioner Simmons. Discussion? Should there be a timeline with this resolution?
I will transmit this to the sheriff tomorrow. If we don't have action by your committee, the whole meeting, I'll have another strategy ready.
Okay,
In one week,
When we,
meeting in 1 week. Okay, all right, well, even in 1 week, we're not gonna be able to vote on it. We're well within the budget year already. You know, I mean,
well, just bear with me. Let's give him a week to
Yep.
do the right thing, and if it doesn't happen, I'll have another strategy prepared that you can consider.
that's fair. Any other questions, discussion? Let's do a roll call vote on this.
Roger Mayhew.
Yeah.
Charles Wiltie.
Yes.
Brenda Simmons.
Yep.
Craig Scott.
yes,
Jenny David.
Yes. Item 7G, resolution to authorize adjustments to the fiscal year 2024 Ogemaw County budget. This resolution is sponsored by Administrator/Controller Timothy Delahoney. On September 28, 2023, the Board of Commissioners adopted Resolution 23-132 to approve general appropriations for fiscal year 2024. The Uniform Budgeting and Accounting Act requires that local units of government periodically adjust the budget to reflect revised revenue and expenditure levels. Approval of the resolution will authorize and acknowledge general fund revenues decreases of $1,048,987 and expenditures decrease of $1,602,345. The resolution will also, the resolution also approves budget adjustments for 41 special funds.
I'll make the motion to make the budget adjustments.
Motion from Commissioner Scott,
Support.
support from Commissioner Wiltie. Tim, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, this is the last adjustment that we'll do for fiscal year 24. We will immediately enter in these numbers into the general ledger. So when the auditors get here, they have the final budget as we see it. Now, again, we understand there are still some outstanding invoices to come in. So those numbers will change. So we'll likely take care of those with a journal entry. But this will address a deficiency that was reported in our audit last year, where the auditor said we didn't do this enough. Well, recall last year, we actually did the adjustment, just that the books were closed before they could get entered, the numbers could get entered in. So these are going to get entered in. And so we should eliminate that concern in the audit this coming year. And it also gives us a very good idea of where we ended the year. You'll recall that we had a surplus of something north of $800,000. Yeah, I do know a couple of fairly large bills that are coming yet. I do know that will be a bill from Roscommon County for circuit court, our portion of the circuit court costs. That will take about $45,000 from that. There were a couple of other bills like that. But the bottom line is we're ending the year with an honest surplus. I recall that last year the audit reported we had a $35,000 surplus, but as we've explained to you, that wasn't really a surplus. That was just the way the auditors ordered the revenues and expenses to show that we weren't in deficit, but in fact, the general fund was. It was about $86,000 in deficit. So we definitely are making progress. It's not huge, but it's certainly a step in the right direction.
Questions?
Yes,
Go ahead.
I thought it looked very well for the last quarter adjustments, but now there was one department or a series of departments that were over budget.
There were, and just runs that. It's on that third page of the resolution. Corrections was $87,916 over budget. Information technology was $848. That's very small. Marine patrol was at $580. Medical examiner was $22,957 over, but that's because there was a quarterly payment from last year that landed on this year's budget. So that's actually one quarter's payment. So that may be something that the auditors adjust when they get here. So that might end up not having any overall if they move any of those funds around. ORV grant was 1,198 over.
1,000?
Yes. The school resource officer for Woodmore Prescott was 6,739 over. Secondary road patrol was 1,803 over. The sheriff's budget was 93,920 over. That was mostly MERS DB legacy cost overage that we'll talk. I think some of that belonged in another activity, but I'll talk to the auditors about that. And we do still have the sheriff's policy showing $9,683. That's one that I've been bringing up for several months. This is one that we need to have right out of this general fund. It's a fund that we really don't have any control over. The posse writes its own checks literally. And I don't really see any reason why that's run through the county's books. So that's one that hopefully we're able to straighten. We know that there were people working on setting a 501c3 up. Hopefully that'll be taken care of soon. I think Paul said they were.
We did close. Close.
That one's going to address itself. But you can see most of the departments, they'd come in under budget, and that's more common than not, obviously.
And those people should be applauded. We asked for savings and they gave it to us. And which is gonna help out immensely for the next budget year.
Yes.
Why, by looking at those, there's a huge savings with building and grounds, $53,000.
A big chunk of that was snow removal. We didn't have as much. I think it was like 20,000 and that was snow removal. And then they had a few other large ticket. We did, as we have for every year, I think it's something like $10,000 for carpet replacement. I don't think we replaced any carpet this year. So it's another one.
That was a long range, multiple year project. I think we finished it up the year before.
There's a couple of places I think could use some attention, but right, we just didn't spend any of it this last year.
Right.
Probably because of the winter that we had, also the snowmobile patrol grant wasn't utilized. They only used $1,000 out of 29,000. Am I reading that correctly?
You are, it was, we have a wage line in there that was way down as well, but yeah, we didn't have any snow. It's kind of hard to run the snow machines.
Right. Right.
So we did go over on ORV.
Yes.
That,
$1,100.
that just can't be. We gotta stay within those grants. This was something back a few years ago, I think, when Karen was in the other department, that we ran over on a grant.
Funded.
A grant funded, line, and we all agreed that we need to stay within that, you know. That's the sell we tell the public. It's not costing you to run boats and ORVs and snowmobiles. It's totally grant funded, so we gotta stay within that. It takes watching a budget.
Any other comments, questions? Roll call vote?
Charles Wiltie.
Yes.
Brenda Simmons.
Yep.
Craig Scott.
Yes.
Jenny David.
Yes.
Roger Mayhew.
Claims, we have a total for claims of $294,925.53.
I'll make a motion to approve the claims.
A motion from Commissioner Scott. We have a support?
Support.
Support from Commissioner Simmons. Who reviewed claims?
I did.
I did also.
Do you want to take the floor, Commissioner Simmons, I guess?
Big one, I don't know if we're charging inmates for tethers or not, for sure. I noticed we were short some funds there on that. Also, I noticed that there was something, one billing that was late. Oh, it was Culligan, it was a Culligan, and it was late, being paid, and it cost what, $15, $20, something like that for a late fee. And I don't know why they're late. You know, I mean, do they just not get to us in time, do they? I don't know, doesn't that get to the treasurer in time, the clerk in time, to you in time? But it was late. Said so right on the invoice, late fees. Late fees.
Commissioner Scott?
Yeah, this is a high number, week here, but appropriations, we got hit for some first quarter, appropriations like mental health.
I see that.
Gets a big, drop on that, and that was $88,000 just in appropriation line, so that was pretty big. The housing department had $36,000, you know, they had a lot of stuff being built and things like that, so. Yeah, we, of course, we got a line now that we're, for the jail, that we're shipping inmates out. I gotta say, I looked at the invoice and there was a number of 1-day stays at Gladwin. And I don't understand why they're doing that, because it's a 72-hour lockup. They can stay here if it's gonna be just a day. And was agreed with Gladwin, once they set foot in the building, that we were gonna get charged, whether it was 7 o'clock at night or 7 o'clock in the morning. Once again, I mean, we're asking a professional department to handle the finances professionally. I was a little disappointed with that for the first month happening like that. And the dates were different times during the month. It wasn't just the first week, you know. So yep, then tax bills cost us $20 some thousand to send out all the tax bills for the winter taxes, right?
Equalization department handles it.
Right, equalization, and then your office, treasurer's office had tax related to stuff, wasn't it?
Admin fees through title check.
Right. So, you know, we get hit with that, and of course, you know, that's twice a year that we mail all that out, and that costs a lot of money, so. And we got hit all at the same time, so. And I would imagine that 5-week period, that makes a difference too, and maybe that's what a late fee comes in, I don't know.
Were we I'm sorry, were you done?
Yeah.
Were we anticipating that $34,000 for the month for Gladwin? Is that up to date? Is that what the?
When I glanced at it, yeah, it was right in line. In fact, it's a little too early to be doing real projections yet, but for the month, it was right in line with where we would expect it to be for 1 month.
How much was that?
So,
$34,140, and IASCO was $6,930. Why the,
May I make a comment?
yep, hold on, why the, $820 for, pharmacy for jail? That's what Gladwin, billed us for.
I can't answer that.
This is out of county medical.
For pharmaceuticals.
Wow,
Yeah.
it just sounds high. Yes, ma'am.
Well, when you do that, those days, just for that, comes up to almost $410,000. That's a lot less expensive than almost 3 million.
Well,
And that would be for 12 months, 409,000,
Right.
not 3 million.
Well, you
But that
know,
doesn't cover
it was costing us, last year's operational cost alone was almost $200,000 a month.
And this would be 400,000.
I mean, it's pretty easy. It's $2.4 million in operation divided by 12, $200,000 a month. That's
is there any other?
Say that one more time.
$200,000 a month to operate, just to operate. That's not our payment.
No, that's true. But what I'm saying is,
That's operational cost.
the fee that you just said was an annual fee of 410.
Right.
Big difference.
Yeah.
Big drop.
I see there's one that passed through there with the health department too. Their appropriations, that was a pretty big one.
That was a big one.
Any other questions, comments? Roll call vote?
Brenda Simmons, Craig Scott,
Yes.
Jenny David,
Yes.
Roger Mayhew.
Yep.
Charles Wiltie.
Yes.
8B, I'm gonna read all of this in entirety. You agree with that, Tim? Read this word for word so everybody knows what it says. Resolution to censure Sheriff Brian D. Gilbert. Whereas on September 26, 2024, the Ogemaw County Board of Commissioners approved Resolution 24-90 to formally adopt a general appropriations resolution for fiscal year 2025 as required in the Uniform Budgeting and Accounting Act. And whereas a general appropriations resolution included a position allocation list with an annual budget that limits the number of permanent employees who can be employed in all departments, and no funds are appropriated for any permanent position or employee not on the approved position allocation list. And whereas the Uniform Budgeting and Accounting Act expressly prohibits an administrative officer of the county, such as the county sheriff, from applying or diverting county funds for purposes inconsistent with those specified in the appropriations of the Board of Commissioners. And whereas enforcement of the general appropriations resolution approved by the Board of Commissioners is vested in the administrator/controller in his capacity as chief administrative officer of the county. And whereas on October 1st, 2024, Sheriff Brian D. Gilbert submitted personal action request forms seeking to promote 3 sheriff's office employees to positions not included in the approved position allocation list. And whereas within minutes of receiving the form submitted by the sheriff, the administrator/controller notified Sheriff Brian D. Gilbert in writing that no funds were appropriated for the requested promotions and that promotions were therefore not approved. And whereas on November 4th, 2024, the Police Officers Labor Council Command Officers Unit filed a formal grievance against the county, which states members were promoted on October 1st, 2024. As of today, the members have not received the pay for their promoted classifications. Affected members includes Lieutenant Justin Knopfinger, Sergeant Jason Wood, and Sergeant Brian Gilbert. And whereas by acting outside of the scope of his authority to promote 3 sheriff's office employees in defiance of a written denial and contrary to the duly approved general appropriations resolution, Sheriff Brian D. Gilbert has blatantly and overtly violated provisions of the Uniform Budgeting and Accounting Act that prohibits creation of a financial obligation on behalf of the county that is inconsistent with those specified in the authorized appropriations of the Board of Commissioners. And whereas it is incumbent upon the Board of Commissioners to enforce and defend the properly approved general appropriations resolution, which sets forth the amounts appropriated by the board to defray expenditures for the ensuing fiscal year. And whereas violations of the Uniform Budgeting and Accounting Act committed by Sheriff Brian D. Gilbert will be reported to the Michigan Attorney General for appropriate action as required by the act. And whereas the actions of Sheriff Brian D. Gilbert constitutes a very serious violation of Michigan law and casts the Ogemaw County Sheriff's Office in a negative light. Therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Commissioners hereby censures Sheriff Brian D. Gilbert for his insulting conduct toward the board and his disregard of the board's authority under the Uniform Budgeting and Accounting Act to set an annual appropriation limits and to establish the number of permanent employees who can be employed in all departments. Be it further resolved that this resolution shall be included verbatim verbatim in the minutes of the Ogemaw County Board of Commissioners as a permanent record of the actions and subsequent censure of the Sheriff Brian D. Gilbert.
I'll make the resolution to censure Sheriff Brian D. Gilbert.
We have a motion from Commissioner Wiltie, support from Commissioner Simmons. Tim, will you take the floor on this?
Let me break this down a little bit. This, as you probably gathered from the tone of the resolution, is very serious. This is not some sort of a political ploy by the board or by myself, but in fact, we are following to the letter what we are obligated to do under the Uniform Budgeting and Accounting Act. This was by promoting these three individuals was without question something that was done in defiance of the budget. It was approved by this board. And there is no question the sheriff was notified that this would be improper. In fact, the message he received 20 minutes after submitting his forms stated and quoted the statutes that were being violated by proceeding. We were, because they have not been approved, clearly the individuals have not been paid anything different. But the fact we found out in talking with another individual that the three officers were using their new titles. And shortly thereafter, that grievance landed on my desk, which prompted this. Now, just to again break it down, the grievance that was filed by the union seeks restitution for the hours worked in the promoted positions. Through Monday, I was able to run some calculations. The sergeant who took on the title of lieutenant, the value is $301.92. One of the two deputies that was assumed the sergeant role was a $559.50 cost. And the other deputy was $548.08, grand total of $1,409.51. But noteworthy, in the case of Knopfsinger, 4.5 hours of the overtime that he earned during this period was attributed to jail transport. This is overtime jail transport because it was time and a half at $39 an hour versus the $16 an hour that we charge for our transport officers to do the same work. Deputy Woods, same thing, 6.5 overtime hours to jail transport. Deputy Gilbert, 6.5 hours attributed to jail transport, and 15.5 hours for Deputy Gilbert were attributed to Ogemaw Heights school events, including a homecoming dance and 2 football games that were charged to the Road Patrol Business Fund. I will have directed the Chief Deputy Clerk to reallocate those funds to the School Resource Officer Fund where they should be charged to. A different deputy has been assigned to that role, so it would be worthy perhaps to ask the sheriff at some point why this was necessary. The whole situation was something I did review with our council, and the one message that I took loud and clear was that we had to act on this. This is a very significant violation of the budgeting rules, and particularly when you put people in position that do not exist. That's a step too far. I think many of the other things that we've talked about over the years, we could maybe understand and make adjustments, but this was so blatant that it just simply can't be ignored. And I'll also point out the way the statute is written, The notice I'm going to send will be filed with the state treasurer, who is then responsible for reporting to the attorney general. I will send it to the attorney general directly as well, to hopefully make a more efficient use of everybody's time. But the statute, again, is very clear that the attorney general shall review the report and initiate the appropriate action against the administrative officer. In this case, the sheriff. What would that constitute? Well, it could certainly constitute up to having the sheriff reimburse the county or to recover the funds that were inappropriately allocated. Now, as you know, I mean, this isn't the first issue that we've had with the sheriff when it comes to budgeting. Some of these other issues you may remember, back in June 10th of 2021, the board adjusted the position allocation list to reduce our sergeant positions from 2 to 1. In that resolution also was quoted the same statute that we're having to enforce tonight, the Uniform Budgeting and Accounting Act. And in this case, again, we were citing the position allocation list and the board's authority to make adjustments to that list throughout the year. So this is not new information to the sheriff. This is something that we've already dealt with once before. Back in July of 2021, I received an email from a law firm claiming the sheriff had retained them to represent the sheriff's office. 15 minutes after receiving that, and again, these I take very seriously and tend to respond to very quickly, I was able to respond to that law firm asking exactly what scope of services the sheriff was asking for, and reminded that firm that the council may not incur any costs without prior approval of the Board of Commissioners. A few months before this, the board approved a resolution establishing corporation counsel, and the firm that contacted me was not our corporation counsel. Our elected officials, our appointed officials, in fact, no other employee of the county has authority to go out and find other counsel. You've established corporation counsel by contract, that's it. Now, the sheriff does have the ability to come to you and ask for your authorization to seek counsel, particularly if it's a especially technical case where a specialty attorney is needed. Now, the law firm did respond to me a day later and said they were retained by the sheriff, quote, in connection with his investigation of potential misconduct and the investigation of the same by the Board of Commissioners. Now, this was the time when we had some pretty serious charges leveled against some of our officers. We'd asked the sheriff to conduct an internal investigation and to take appropriate action with those employees. But the way I'm reading that memorandum is that the sheriff also asked that law firm to investigate the board or its investigation of that incident. And you may recall our counsel at that time was Greg Meehan, and he did conduct an investigation on behalf of the county. On July 15th, the sheriff presented an engagement letter to the Board of Commissioners. They had a committee of the whole meeting. And after about 30 minutes of discussion, the board very professionally declined the sheriff's request to retain the outside counsel. On September 2nd of 2021, the sheriff presented an invoice of $3,696 for services provided by that law firm. And again, after lengthy discussion, the board affirmed its earlier decision to deny the request for outside counsel. On September 9th, the sheriff authorized payment of the $3,696 for outside counsel with other routine department claims that were submitted for approval by the board. I removed that invoice from the claims and it was not paid. This is a very disturbing chain of events. The sheriff was told twice, no. Told once before he incurred any costs, no. Went ahead and engaged the counsel and incurred a bill and expected that to be paid. And clearly, I mean, the right thing was done. That bill was removed from claims and it was not. I'm sure you'll remember the events back on May 5th of 2023. After several weeks of debate, you approved a resolution to purchase a 2023 Chevy Tahoe with commissary funds. The sheriff made the unbudgeted purchase outside the parameters of the adopted purchasing procedures policy and submitted the invoice again with other routine bills. Commissioner Scott found it in the claims and said, what are we doing with this? There was no RFP issued. And so that was discussed thoroughly. I think it was about a 6-week period that appeared on several agendas. The reasoning given by the sheriff at the time was he just thought it was okay. The undersheriff was out of town, so he just approved it and sent it through. It's echoes of some other excuses that we've heard for not participating in the budget process this year. Commissioners, at the same time as that purchase was made and with other cars, has asked about the location of the replacement equipment like light bars and radios, and we get to hear a reply as to where that property is. In January, January 23rd of this year, we were doing our routine, as you know, review of compensatory time use, overtime use of our sheriff's office employees. We have a contract with our patrol deputies that sets comp time hours, and it says they may not be banked in excess of 48 hours. But a patrol deputy under the authority of the sheriff was allowed to accrue, now recall, 48 hours is the maximum that you're supposed to be able to accrue, not more. This deputy was allowed to accrue 93.25 hours of comp time over a 3-week period. Nearly double that maximum allowable in order to attend a concert out of state. The value of the added hours paid, and they're paid out at 1.5 times of what they earned, is over $1,000, $1,764.75. So that deputy was then off to attend that out of state concert during that time. Did we have patrol coverage while he was gone? I don't know. We could certainly look at the timesheets and find out, but that's again added time then that was being paid to cover this time off. What's worse, in my view, is this employee, while having taken all this comp time, continued to earn PTO time during that same period. So in effect, we've got a guy off now at 1.5 times the hours actually worked and continuing to accrue vacation time. If you're going to take a vacation and go to a concert out of state, that's what the PTO time is for. We were never set up to use comp time as a supplement to PTO and then allow that PTO time to accrue so that you get a larger payout upon separation with the county. Last issue I'll bring to your attention, and this is just one of several that I found. I was able to do an analysis of the entire fiscal year 2024 of the compensatory time that was taken. We have one correction employee who was allowed to take a total of 255 hours off in accrued comp time in fiscal year 2024. And his banked hours never exceeded the 48-hour maximum. So each pay period when the total comp hours were reported never exceeded the 48. But he was taking time off and then adding more comp time. And it's sort of a regular cycle to get 255 paid hours off. That has a value of $6,316.35. And because it's a corrections position, it was backfilled with another employee for that time he took off. And the way our contracts are written, the employee doing the backfill was also earning a time and a half. So it's almost 3 times we're being paid for these hours. They're having to pay out for these hours. It's no wonder, knowing this, that the overtime budget for corrections exceeded $104,000 last year.
Say that number again.
It was more than $104,000 last year for overtime. But it's this kind of thing that really had it built. Now, again, I'm not saying this to pile on. I'm saying it because there's a clear trend here and it needs to stop. It needs to stop because this county cannot fiscally maintain its solvency if we allow this to continue. So I'm certainly hopeful that by reporting this finally to Treasury and to the Attorney General's office, the message will finally be received. This is not acceptable and it cannot continue. And if it does continue, we're going to have to just continue to report this to the Attorney General and be very aggressive that when a department under the sheriff's control runs out of money, that's it, doors close. We don't continue to supplement it. We understand emergencies. Things happen. If there was a major law enforcement event and it was all hands on deck, we understand that. And I don't think there's any problem at that point finding the funds to make sure that everybody who participated in this is compensated and compensated properly. But to allow positions to be just simply created out of whole cloth and people put into them and paid and allowed to accrue additional hours in this way, it just is not good management and it really does have to stop. So with that, that's the background to supplement what Commissioner Scott was talking about earlier. We mentioned Alpena County. That was actually a Headley override that failed, just like ours did. Isabella County was a road patrol millage that failed. That department will be cut by $2.3 million, effective really immediately. And again, 19 officers laid off and a number of other functions no longer happening. In Eaton County, there was an operating millage put on the ballot to cover what the Headley rollbacks had taken over the years. It was roughly, I think, in the 3 mil area. That millage also failed. The sheriff in that county is having to cut all deputies except for those who are contracted with other communities. So what they do is they have contracts with other cities and villages within the county to provide law enforcement services. So with those funds continuing to come in, those officers will continue, but the general county officers will be reduced. The one common issue that these 3 counties have, they have a sheriff who's offering constructive participation at county board meetings to make sure that the reductions are made are appropriate and can be handled by the department. We don't enjoy that luxury in this county, and it's time we did. We had very low participation through the entire budget process this last year, despite the dramatic moves that we had to make. And it's very frustrating for me to have to educate myself about how a jail is run, which I don't mind doing, but it would have been very helpful to have had that expertise at the table to help that conversation along. I think we've done a good job at that, but it would be very nice to have a department that was working alongside us rather than putting up obstacles such as this. And it's just, again, something that's not constructive use of our time.
Just some of the things that you just recapped. Do you not mind me asking just a few questions briefly? You had listed the couple hours of overtime for them grievances. We do have part-time corrections officers, correct?
We do. There are 3 of them that are, the positions have been approved
On call.
and on call, right?
The other thing you brought up was that Tahoe. We did end up having to pay that, correct?
Yes.
Which I recall was like 70,000. It was a lot of money.
Yes, it was.
The other thing I just wanted to bring up quickly is when we did ask for help to help with this budget, and we all have different opinions on this, but go back to the ticket writing. When we asked for some assistance there, some type of answers, we've asked over and over again, right? We don't know how this department runs. Give us some help. Give us something. Wash your own cars, cook your own meals, write some tickets, something. I don't. And it came back with, well, I need a new car if I'm going to do this.
Right.
It was never been cooperative. It always felt like it was, you do this, but it's been a very frustrating. But anyways, I just wanted to clarify those couple of things. So any other comments?
Well, you're absolutely right. We have asked over the last 4 years, and every time we've asked, he wants to spend instead. I remember the time that drug interdiction car that he wanted. One of the judges was in the room, just fell out of his chair because he asked, when we asked you ask him for a savings, he'd come back with, I need a car and I need to send somebody for training. No, this year, we started right out, and our law enforcement committee meetings have been very, very active. And this was brought up, and if you recall, the meeting, the committee, the whole meeting just before the week before we approved the budget, scenario A, scenario B, we discussed it at length. He wanted the scenario that he wanted. We asked questions. He didn't like us asking questions. We saw the result of asking questions last week. It was there, and then we passed it, and when we passed that budget the next week, it was said what scenario was in it. So it was not like, oh, I thought they did this. No, it wasn't at all. It wasn't at all. It was clear that we went with the scenario that held at one command officer. This is just blatant. I mean, just out and out blatant. I mean, he doesn't care. My question, what's the next thing? Is he just gonna go and order cars because he feels like it? I don't know. At what, we can't remove him from office with the censure. The censure's basically, we just impeached him or something, and he keeps going, but at least it's an action we can take.
This helps protect us.
It helps protect us, yes, and the county.
Correct, which is our concern.
And, you know, and we just talked about the fourth quarter adjustments and what departments went over. The raises for next year countywide depends if we can get this budget through. And if we got a department that's 40% of the budget, that's not gonna adhere to the total budget, how are we gonna go look at the rest of the employees here and give them raises next year? And if we don't, we're gonna have a mass exodus of people. They're not gonna hang around places where you don't give them raises. But I said it the night of the budget. We got a song tablet here, and if we all sing the same song, we'll get through this thing. All the other departments came through with flying colors this year. Flying colors. Yeah.
Anything,
Okay.
Commissioner Wiltie?
I said it last week, this whole situation we have in front of us is just, it's outrageous. I've been on the law enforcement committee. I've tried to be really steady and consistent and work with the sheriff and the undersheriff and try to do what's best for this county, and the sheriff continuously for the last 21 months. Just trust me, just trust me, just trust me. How can we trust anyone, a stakeholder of our county, when they go out and do something like this? This is 100% unacceptable. When I saw those parks come through on my email, I was shocked by it. I knew they were immediately turned down. I mean, that right there was the first step. And then to keep moving this forward, it's 100% unacceptable. What we need to be working on right now as a county is working on this jail transition, working to get more strong certified deputies on the road to protect our citizens. But instead we have to sit here and we have to talk about these actions. And this is unacceptable. This is coming from a sheriff, somebody that we should hold as high as possible to do the right things for the department and for the county. And this is what we have to deal with. We've talked about for months and months about this comp time. This comp time has been clearly abused. Clearly abused. It is not right. Who's paying for that? Our taxpayers, our residents. And it's time now, after months and months and months of this and trying to work with these people, that this has to be said to the public. The public needs to know the truth. This is not political. This is not a witch hunt. These are the facts. And we have to get this figured out. Like Tim said, we cannot continue to move forward with this type of behavior from our shareholders. Enough is enough. This is the end now. We've got to get this figured out. We got to get it figured out now. And it's a sad, sad situation that we have in front of us.
The other thing I just want to add is that when they did come to us requesting these promotions, then they were clearly denied. I believe we all stated that we will reevaluate this in the future, but right now with this transition happening with the corrections department, let's figure things out, come back to us in some time, and we will reevaluate if you're able to show us the need. That was verbalized out loud as well.
Can I make a comment on
Yeah.
Yeah, we made it very clear. We were able to, when we wanted to listen about more command, we asked just simple questions. What are the specific duties? What do we have right now? You know, we put things in place that we felt we could have more road patrol going on right now than we do, but we're not seeing that. So then our question is, well, why? We want to know what these people are doing. I asked time after time after time. I asked Tim to ask them for an explanation. We have the right to know what these deputies are doing because we need to protect our citizens, and they're paying for this. Yet we would get nothing. We get zero.
Is the time clock thing ever going into effect with either one of the departments?
It's in bargaining right now.
But it's not being utilized, correct?
Not to the extent that I think you're thinking of. They do use it to manually enter what they recall their hours to be.
They're not quick
But
enough.
they're not
Okay.
talking.
I want to know if something had changed. Go ahead, you two. I'm sorry. Mr. Simmons.
Yeah, well, I am really, pleased with the board's reaction on this situation. I really am. I was commissioner once before and saw this situation. I knew it was gonna be coming. And I did explain it when I was a commissioner before. And I don't think that many of the people are on this board now that, when I brought it forward. And, I was voted down more than once. And I knew that this was coming, what we have here today. I knew it was gonna happen, and that jail hasn't made any money, never. And the jail will not make money. But the people were convinced who were sitting here, before I was ever sitting here, that we would save lots of money by having a jail. And it didn't come to fruition. Evidently, they didn't do the figures, they didn't do something right. But the jails around us, like was mentioned here tonight, how they're closing, laying off the sheriff's department because their budgets can't afford it anymore. And our budget hasn't been able to afford it for a long time. But we've had extra money. And it's actually revolving fund. Is that what we use? Thank you.
Delinquent tax revolving fund,
Yeah,
where you borrowed money to.
yeah,
balance
and
budget.
we borrowed money from, yeah, you're absolutely right. To balance the budget, and they just continue to do it. And, our president treasurer now knows that I wanted to close the deal, and I got a lot of pushback. And, in fact, I got a call from him one day, he says, getting a lot of pushback. So it just didn't pass with the other commissioners. And, so I am pleased with these commissioners that are sitting here tonight. They can see what is happening. And, we're gonna be in big trouble if you all wouldn't have voted and wouldn't have all stuck together with this. So we should be proud of ourselves to save the taxpayers' money, get the budget balanced, and move on forward. So,
And to hold people accountable. But I do want to point out, you were very much disrespected last week and you handled yourself very well. So I thank you for that.
well, you should tell my brother that. He'd be so pleased.
Go ahead, Commissioner Mayhem.
I'm still at my township meetings, still catching. They paid for road patrol and they ain't getting none. It's every meeting.
Mhm.
I don't know why he don't get it, but everywhere I go, same stuff.
Well, we have some officers that are doing transport and we have part-time transport officers. So hopefully pointing that out, but also again, we did state as a board as a whole that that will be reevaluated, that millage will be reevaluated. That's in our hands. So
I mean,
roll call vote.
Craig Scott,
Yes.
Jenny David.
Yes.
Roger Mayhew,
yes.
Charles Wiltie.
Yes.
Brenda Simmons.
Yes.
Unfinished business. Any commissioners?
I have none.
Administrator/controllers report.
Got the written report. Two things I did want to bring to your attention. Yesterday, I was able to finally get out notice to all of our appointed board and committee members who had terms expiring at the end of this year. Asking who might want to be reappointed and who isn't interested. I'm pretty impressed with the response in just 24 hours with the number of replies that I've received. We do have, or will have a couple of areas, some openings that will occur, some people who don't want to be reappointed. So we will put a notice on our webpage and I'll also put a notice in the Herald that just says we have openings on appointed boards and commission. Go to our webpage. We've got a form to fill out that will get to you and you can consider them for appointment when the time comes. We do have one appointment to the land bank that will come to you. We'll actually talk about it at committee of the whole next week. You have one supervisor who has left that position and a new one, and that's an easy one to replace. It's one of those required seats. So you'll see that one early, but then a whole bunch of them later in December. And then finally, I had an interesting request out of Rose Township. They were requested by, I'm not even sure who they are, it must be Eagle, to get a letter from the county stating that their transfer station was compliant with our solid waste management plan. Now, I know we were supposed to have one, but boy, I'd never seen one before. And I put Ryan Veeder on it. By golly, he found it. And yes, they are compliant and that letter was issued and we're all well and good. We were going to need this anyway for the new plan that we're developing with these other counties. So it was good to find it. But it was just interesting how some of these things come to pass. Suddenly that's in the forefront of my daily routines anymore. So it's just interesting to have that pop up. So, but that's it.
Any questions for Tim?
Geez, there was something I just had, I'll remember about 2 o'clock this morning, I'll wake up. Remember what it was.
Elected officials and department head reports. Clerk, do you have it?
I am ready today.
Okay,
Brett Gildner, your Ogemaw County Clerk. Okay, so the election, I just want to share a couple numbers with you guys, in comparison to early voting for August and compared to November. We all know in November, there's generally for the general election, a bigger turnout. That was true. We had for early voting, which was 9 days long in the county building, this year, or for November, excuse me, we had 2,209 voters. In August, we had 214. So almost 2,000 more. The voter turnout percentage in August was 1%. In November, it was almost 12%. So huge increase. For the total early voting and election day voting, Ogemaw County in August had 5,666 voters for 31% voter turnout. November, we had 12,696 for 67% voter turnout, which is huge. And like I said last week with the early voting and having so many people come in, it was a long 9 days, but it was an exciting 9 days because I truly couldn't believe each day that it just kept getting better. And like I said, that myself and my staff, we put so much work into elections, and to see it be such a success, it really felt good. So I just want to thank everybody who did take part in the early voting, well, everybody who voted, but particularly because the early voting is such a, it's my baby, I guess you'd say. So to see it be so successful is really spectacular. So with the elections, 17 jurisdictions, we now have 5 new supervisors, 5 new clerks, 2 new treasurers, 1 new mayor, 8 new trustees, and 2 new council members. So and that came with a lot of, like, particularly for the clerks, and supervisors, I guess, the people who didn't rerun, they've been in that office for years. I mean, there were some that were for other reasons, but they've been in that office for years. So it's exciting to see new people come in, get involved, want to make a difference, want to see success for their specific townships or jurisdictions. So a lot of new people. And I just want to say, like with the clerks specifically, I have no problem helping out new clerks getting anything that I can do. Feel free to tell at your meetings, tell them they can reach out to me. I have no problem helping with Tracy, my chief deputy clerk, being a township clerk as well. We work really, really well together to see it from both sides, at the county level and the township level. And it's really helped both of us become stronger. So I am not opposed at all to anybody reaching out if they need any help. But there's also the MTA and then the Department of State, and there's going to be trainings for everybody. So I sent out, you guys received them today, your certificate of election. Anybody that was elected should be receiving them in the mail. There are 2 jurisdictions, I believe I gave to the clerk. So those will be in all the newly elected hands within the week. Swearing in, I have sworn in a couple, well, probably 8 or 9 people, just Tuesday, Wednesday, today. I have no problem doing that. If anybody needs to be sworn in for the local level, they need to be sworn in by November 20th. So I have no problem doing that. Just, I appreciate calling my office and make an appointment just to make sure that I'm there, not on lunch or in a meeting or whatever. Also, the people who need to be sworn in, the deputies also need to be sworn in. So like the township clerk, their deputy, they also need to be sworn in, the supervisor, treasurer, and deputy. Supervisor, treasurer, and clerk deputies also need to be sworn in. It doesn't have to be me. It can be a township clerk, township supervisor, notary public, a judge, a state senator, state rep. So that does need to be done by November 20th. And then for the 2024 budget that we passed that resolution, I still have roughly about $1,000 still coming in from the townships. They all know they have to have it by, was it the 26th? 26th?
26 is the
Yeah.
cutoff.
I told them next week. So I have about $1,000 more coming in to reimburse the early voting is what that is. And then lastly, I found out the other day there's going to be an election next year in one of the townships who did not put a road millage on in November for whatever reasons. So there will be an election in the spring. So I thought I had a 2-year break from that, but this will just make it so I don't forget what I'm doing. And I did confirm with the state today that that township is 100% responsible to pay for everything. There are certain things like in normal, like the normal elections, I pay for the newspaper ads, the ballots. There's a list of things that the county is responsible for. But since it's not an already scheduled election, they will pay 100% for that. So
What was the percentage? You said the voters overall for Ogemaw County was 12,000. I think you said 12,600. What's the percentage there?
it was 67% voter turnout.
Okay. Do
Yeah.
you know if that was up or down from previous? It sounds pretty high.
I didn't look in 2020.
Okay.
And after I got here, I was mad at myself for not looking, but
Sounds
I'm gonna look because I'm curious. Cause that does,
That's pretty high.
it is high, yeah.
fantastic.
Also, one more thing I forgot to mention. We had countywide from the August to November, we had about 100 more people register to vote.
Oh, fantastic.
So,
Wow, nice.
yeah,
I had a question. You said they have to be sworn in before November 20th.
yes.
So I have some different opinions at the township levels. There's a bunch of my townships that are having new officers.
Yep.
They have to be sworn in by November 20th. When are they taking the seat
21st.
of November?
Yep.
So they'll be running the December meeting.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
okay.
Yep.
Is that the same for commissioners?
No.
Okay.
Mhm.
Nice try.
Awesome. Darn it. Darn it. Treasurer. She caught on.
Report from me is on your iPads. As Brett mentioned, there's a lot of new elected officials. Aranet County has a new county treasurer And my office will be providing training and support for that new county treasurer.
Oh, fantastic.
That's all I have for you today.
Any official, elected officials, department heads on the phone? Jeff, I think I seen you on there.
Yes,
Yep, I'm on here. I don't have a lot to report. I just want to thank Brenda for attending our ceremony on Monday, the veteran ceremony. You should have gotten an email today or yesterday regarding the grant program. We just need to get Jenny to sign that, and then we got to send it back to the state so they can continue the process of getting our grant.
I did receive an email. Did you print that off? Really?
I haven't even opened it yet,
Okay.
but I'll get to it.
I did get it, Jeff.
Yep, that's cool. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thanks, Jeff. Any other elected officials, department head reports? Anybody want to give a report?
I just looked up the results from 2020. I don't have the percentage, but there was 11,980 voters in November of 2020 and 12,696 in November of 2024. So it was up, but I don't know what the population was in 2020.
As it is now.
That's fair.
Oh,
Thanks, Tom.
Welcome.
sorry, Tom.
Matters from the floor. Are there any commissioners?
No.
Motions for adoption? Commissioners reports. Commissioner Simmons.
I have one thing. I read the paper today, by the way, very interesting paper today. And there was a letter to the editor that I was really concerned with. And it has to do about the millage that was on the ballot for the animal shelter. And this individual was concerned because it says, if approved and levied, a portion of the millage may also be dispersed in accordance with state law to the Downtown Development Authority of the West City of West Branch and the Township of West Branch. And that is required by law, Michigan law, that we put that on there. And you talk about having it bundled in this millage that we passed in November. Well, this little paragraph is bundled, so to speak, in every millage we pass. So just for clarification. And we do give transparency because it is in there. And we don't put it in there just because it's a good thing to do. And as far as the urge local officials and newspapers to clarify how these funds will be allocated so voters can make an informed choice. If funding is needed by the Downtown Development Authority, it should be presented openly, not bundled into a millage for animal welfare. Like I said, that little statement is bundled into every millage we pass. And we have no authority over the downtown development authorities of how they spend their money. So if you would like to have more information, you can go to the downtown development authorities and ask yourself what they spend their money on. And now you know why we bundle it in the millage, because we're required to by state law. That's all I have to say about that.
But the DVA's opted to not collect. Okay.
One other thing.
Well,
There has been a commissioner working on that issue, been very successful, and that's Commissioner Wiltsey.
he has one.
And you may see a change coming forth in future millage elections on that issue.
It's being worked on.
So it's a work in progress right now, and I think we're gonna be very successful. Thank you, Commissioner Wiltsey, for doing that.
I think I was censored. Commissioner Mayhew. Commissioner Mayhew,
West Branch Township,
go ahead.
they said they had 72% voting
Turnout?
turnout.
Good.
And the city has a deputy employed by the township. And they had decided they have no noise ordinance because something number 6 in the county was proven not to be good. And so there is no noise in the county,
No noise ordinance?
right?
Are they talking about one? Talking about, what was this brought to light?
You know, they had somebody making a lot of noise and there's nothing. Whatever we had, they proved was not right, so it's gone.
I remember that, we actually had a resolution, it's been more than a year ago now, we had repealed several ordinances because there was no statutory basis to have them. We have to have that enabling statute before we can do it. So there was that one, there were a couple of them that were kind of like that. They sound like good ideas at the time, but if we don't have authorization in statute, it's void.
May I make a comment? May I make a comment?
Commissioner Simmons?
Madam Chairman, thank you. So that means if I'm on to 3 o'clock in the morning, I can go make as much noise as I want in the county. So if I'm up, everybody's up. Is that a true statement?
No, because your township can probably pass such an ordinance and you could get in trouble with them.
But they don't.
But we can't.
If they don't, then yeah.
They can't, we can't.
Okay, go on, Commissioner Mayhew. Commissioner Simmons, that's enough. I attended.
Commissioner Mayhew, can I ask? a
Oh,
question?
go ahead. Sorry.
Roger, you said a deputy. They have hired a deputy. They have hired a police officer, have they? From the city? A city police officer, not a county deputy.
Not a county.
West Branch Township has done that, yes.
Yes.
It sounds like they're happy with what's going on.
Yes.
They're happy with.
Yeah.
with-
Yeah, like you said, they can't enforce something that they don't have.
I attended 911 meeting last night. The main concern there is short-staffed. Right now, they're down a couple of employees, trying to hire some. They're struggling. They get them in for some interviews. They go through that process, and then the employees are for whatever reason, don't go on to the next step. So sounds like it's kind of a surrounding area. They said Roscommon's really struggling, Aranak's really struggling, so it's conversation. They're still keeping their overtime to a minimum. The director and the assistant is filling in quite a bit. Just if anybody knows anybody, there is no schooling with that. It's on the job training. Last night they stated it's a 6-month training. The wage I was pleasantly surprised with. Benefits are good. It is a very stressful job. It's, as of right now, it's 12-hour shifts. They're looking at possibly changing some things there. But if you know anybody that's interested in dispatch, and you think would be a good fit, because they are definitely looking for some longevity, send them over there. So I missed the opiate settlement committee meeting, unfortunately. I was gonna log on and I ran out of time. I wanted to ask a quick question, Tim. The township that I live in, Logan Township, is going through some changes with their board as well. Am I allowed, one of the new elected officials or elected officers asked if I would be a deputy to them. Am I allowed as far as I didn't think so, but I wanted to clarify that. I wanted to ask. I'm so full.
Yep, your gut was right.
What township is that?
The township I live in,
What township is that?
Logan.
I can't be there either, Jenny.
Commissioner Scott.
I went to border review training because my township supervisor asked me, and the first thing that they said on the stage was, if you're a county commissioner, you shouldn't be here. Right away, they said it right away, so I had to hang around the whole day anyway. But we were gonna have a Parks and Rec meeting this morning, but with deer season coming up, we had people that were going to camp and we had others that were going other places, but we ended up canceling. Both parks are closed now. The RV park has been closed since the end of last month. And then we always close the nature park, the deer park during rut. The bucks are really active right now. They're jumping 10-foot fences and we just don't, oh, they will. Yeah. They will, they're.
Those don't have a chance.
Well, they got a 10-foot chance, yeah. But, you just don't want them jumping right out and into the public, or anything like that. So right now, we just don't have much going on. We're right at the start of the fiscal year, so we canceled it for this month. I haven't attended any other meetings except these here, so I wish I had more to say like Breck, but I don't.
Commissioner Wiltie.
This is the time of month where I have a lot of meetings coming up here, especially next week. But I was out of state on Tuesday when we had the Mills Township meeting, but I did send my commission report to our new upcoming supervisor, Bruce Beach, and he read my report. I appreciated that. Mills Township did vote yes on supporting the library there in Skidway, which is huge. I was very glad to see that. Excited for the new board. We've got a couple new members there. a lot of good things going on Skidway, like I said last week. We had an opiate settlement meeting, just prior to this meeting. I felt like it went very well. We have a group of people that have been working with us that started a small group to compile some information. They did a fantastic job. So one thing I had asked Tim and Tim pulled up was the attendance of our current members over since the settlement committee has started, the opiate committee. And there's a number of people that just haven't been involved. So we really want to try to get, especially people that have continued to be involved via Zoom or come to our meetings that aren't a committee member. We're hoping that they fill out an application. So come January, we can have a really strong board and start making some pretty good decisions here. We're kind of at a point now where, we're going to start being able to bring in some RFPs and hopefully from there be able to start, spending some money. And again, it's a matter in the county that's continuing to get worse. We know the importance of it. We're very fortunate to have this money, so we want to spend this money correctly and spend it in a way that it's going to be sustainable for years to come. So I'm excited to see what 2025 is going to bring with that committee. That's it. Like I said, I got a lot of stuff coming up next week. So.
General public
One note, I've been watching the screen. We had up to 22 people on tonight.
Wow.
I looked at YouTube just a few minutes ago. We had 516 views of last week's meeting. People are engaging.
Getting involved.
fantastic.
And we have some other public here too.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
And I think that's great, and I've seen a big increase too in this last year, a big increase of people coming. And if people would look at our meetings and watch the meetings, just go to YouTube and put Ogemaw County Commissioner meeting and put the date in there and boop, there it is. You can listen to the whole meeting. Then we wouldn't get letters to the editor like this. So I highly suggest anybody, it's fun to watch.
You'll still get your
General-
picture on the front page. though.
General public comment, anybody in the room?
I have an answer for the 2020.
Oh,
Okay, so in 2020, the registered voters was 15,882. Now it's 18,953. So we've gained almost 3,100 registered voters.
fantastic.
Yeah, but it was 75% voter turnout in 20,
With
but
less voters.
with less voters.
We had less.
But we have, it's 3,071 more registered voters in 4 years, which
Pretty good.
Any public comment in the room?
I need to make one comment.
Oh, Commissioner Simmons, what?
Well, I like those figures. I mean, they're absolutely wonderful. I just want people to know that our county population has increased by 3,000 voters. That just means more people are getting involved in
More
government.
people involved, yeah.
yes.
Good point.
Yeah, any public comment in the room?
She loved me, earned her.
Any public comment on the phone?
How about Asper Township Supervisors?
Commissioner Scott, any public comment on the phone? No public comment. We have a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion.
Support. All in favor, say aye. Motion adjourned. Thank you.
Yeah.